Hey everyone, the new film Blue Moon stars Ethan Hawke and Margaret Qualley, and it's directed by Richard Linklater. It captures a single night in the life of lyricist Lorenz Larry Hart, who was once half of the legendary songwriting duo Rodgers and Hart. Now, before Oklahoma made Rodgers and Hammerstein household names, it was Rodgers and Hart who filled American stages with witty, sophisticated, and bittersweet musicals. But when Oklahoma opens in New York City without him, Larry sits in his theater box and realizes what's unfolding before him, a musical masterpiece that is sentimental and easy, and it will be the biggest hit of Rodgers' career. And you know what? He did it with someone else. Larry's realization quietly breaks him. Ethan Hawke stars as Larry Hart, and what he delivers here is quite possibly the best performance of his career. He is unrecognizable, not because of makeup or mimicry or anything like that, but because of the emotional truth he brings to the character. Blue Moon isn't about what happened factually that night. It's based on letters between Larry Hart and Elizabeth Weiland, and it becomes something deeper, essentially a fictionalized but emotionally true account of those few hours between Oklahoma's curtain call and the after party at Sardi's. It's not the literal truth. It's something more powerful in that it is an artistic distillation of what must have been going through Larry's heart and mind as his era quietly came to an end before his eyes. This isn't a movie for everyone. It's slow, it's intimate, and it's built entirely on conversation. Every frame centers on Ethan Hawke, and there is not a single moment without him. Blue Moon unfolds like a long late night dialogue where every exchange, every sip of whiskey, and every line of witty repartee exposes another layer of a man wrestling with the erosion of his own legacy. The script is sharp and it's cutting. It's filled with humor and pain and self awareness. Larry's exchanges with the bartender, the pianist, and even the author, E.B. White, who's tucked in a corner writing a children's book, and I'm going to let you guess which one, as well as with Elizabeth and Rodgers and Hammerstein, who are used to reveal the contradictions inside of Larry himself. Now, Larry, he is brilliant. He's charming. He's jealous. He's generous. He's also a desperate alcoholic. Hawke's performance captures all of this as a man whose creative vision no longer aligns with the future, turning him into a man trying to celebrate others while quietly mourning his own obsolescence. It is a painful story to watch, but it's also really quite beautiful in its way if you have the patience for this kind of storytelling. What makes Blue Moon resonate is how it captures a generational shift in art itself. Larry Hart belongs to a world of sharp satire and lyrical sophistication, rooted in deeper, hard earned stories. The audience of Oklahoma longs for something simpler, more sentimental, more warmly romantic. They wanted something that they can just hold on to during a time when the world was reeling from its greatest war and its greatest losses. The film becomes an artistic meditation on what happens when the world moves on without you, when your relevance fades and your art, sensibility, and creative voice fall out of sync with the times. It's not a better film, which is surprising. Instead, it's deeply human. Blue Moon argues that all art really is generational just by its nature. And it shows us this through this specific moment in time when an artistic torch has been passed from one set of creatives to another. Each generation wants something new that speaks to them and resonates with them. And when you can't adapt as a creative, you are left behind, not because you failed, but because the world now needs something else. That realization hits Larry, and it hits us too while we're watching it. Just watching him navigate his quiet emotional collapse feels like witnessing the end of an era as a man realizes that his time is not only ending, but it's already gone. Oklahoma becomes the symbol of a new kind of theater that is safe and aspirational and romantically simple. It's everything Hart cannot embrace and creatively because his muse draws from this raw, emotionally complex set of experiences in order to create these layered stories that have satirical explorations of longing and truth that are rooted in the past rather than reaching for a hopeful future. As a side comment, I've got to say, future generations might even look back at 2025, at our year right now, as a turning point for cinema when audiences, technology, and storytelling all begin to shift, just like they did that night when Oklahoma opened. The question is, who will be left behind? What are we, the audience, seeking? And what will our future hold in the form of art? In that way, Blue Moon succeeds as both a period piece and a universal story. It doesn't just capture a night in a New York bar, it captures the moment in time when one kind of art dies and another is born. It captures the heartbreak of being replaced, the grace of celebrating others anyway, and the courage it takes to face the reality of your own decline. The conversations move between the bar and the tables and the coat room and back again. But the emotional center, it really never wavers from Larry Hart. The entire film is an exploration of truth, not factual truth, but emotional truth, told through dialogue and performance and reflection that digs into these funny and deeply painful stories about Larry's infatuation with Elizabeth, his annoyance with Oklahoma, and the somewhat mocking celebration of his own achievements, as well as Rodgers and Hammerstein. Through it all, Blue Moon never looks away from the bitter truth that much of Larry's failures come from his own addiction to alcohol. It's a brutally honest portrait of a man who is sometimes as abrasive as he is charming. Still, the film is never cynical, even as it shows us Larry's realization that the future, it doesn't include him. But he still paints himself into that vision anyway, with a sad hope that maybe somehow it actually could be true. For reference, Blue Moon's story structure and format resonate with a few other films like My Dinner with Andre, Before Sunrise, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, 12 Angry Men, and even Phone Booth. These are all stories that unfold through conversation rather than action, where the tension lives in what's said as well as what is left unsaid. Like My Dinner with Andre, it builds its entire world in a single night, drawing power from the rhythm and honesty of dialogue. Its connection to Before Sunrise runs deeper, especially given Ethan Hawke's role bridging the exploration of time and intimacy and truth with a performance that feels like a natural evolution of that earlier series of films. The emotional volatility and psychological unraveling in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf echo through Blue Moon as well. Though here, the cruelty shifts from quiet to cutting, wrapped in satire and self deprecating humor that's internalized and honed to a razor's edge. Structurally, it shares the claustrophobic immediacy of 12 Angry Men and Phone Booth, where a single space just becomes this crucible of transformation for everyone. But Larry, the difference is that Blue Moon trades their external conflicts for a more private collapse, letting the night itself become the stage for Larry's reckoning with art, with loss and legacy. So, is Blue Moon ticket worthy? This is a film that asks for your attention. And for those patient enough to watch, I think your patience will be rewarded. It's not designed for multitasking or background watching. You have to sit with it. You have to let it kind of wash over you and listen to what's not being said as well as what is. If you love theater, if you love musicals or character driven dramas, you're likely going to enjoy this film. If you're not really into the heavy dialogue or introspective period pieces, it probably won't gel for you. And that's okay because you know what? This movie, it isn't going to be for everyone. However, if this does sound like your kind of film, I encourage you to see it in a theater if at all possible. Films like this that are artistic and original, smart, adult dramas built on great writing and acting are becoming increasingly rare. Studios, they are hesitant to make them because they don't know how to market them. And worse, they don't know if people are going to pay to see money for them in the theater. And if they don't make their budget back and then they won't make them anymore. And the truth is, the studios don't regularly make films like this for streaming. Films that are made for streaming often have a much smaller budget because licensing for streaming is much less lucrative than a theatrical release. The result is that you feel this odd difference in quality that is often difficult to put into words, other than it just feels like it was made for streaming, which is reminiscent of the old adage made for TV. Not everyone can get to a theater, and I totally get that. Nor can everyone afford to go to a theater, even if they can get there. But if you can go, you should, because this kind of film, if this is what you like, you really do need to support it in a theater so that they keep making these kinds of movies. Because studios, their decision-making process is purely based on box office results and whether or not a movie makes back its budget. And they're trying right now to figure out what kinds of movies they can keep producing and which ones they can't. And if they have to start shifting things straight to streaming, you're going to start seeing a different level of quality that feels a little different, that feels a little off, that doesn't quite feel like theatrical experiences. And maybe that's okay for a lot of films, but for some, it just doesn't work as well. It just, I don't know. It makes me think of the old Hallmark films that we would get, where if someone says it's like made for a Hallmark, you kind of know what you're getting. I think we're headed for a period where when someone says made for streaming, you kind of know what you're getting. That's kind of what we're looking at here as studios try to decide, do we put studio theatrical release money behind it, or do we put, studio streaming money behind it? And so we're the ones that help them make those decisions. So Blue Moon, it isn't just a story about Larry Hart. It's about every artist who's ever watched the world move on without them. It's about legacy and love and what happens when brilliance meets change and begins to fade away. In that way, this mirrors what's happening in Hollywood right now, just like I was saying a moment ago, as the film industry becomes increasingly unsure of what its audience was going to pay for. And it's terrified of change. It's terrified of social media dictating what they can and can't do. They don't know how to respond. So, Blue Moon, have you seen it? Have you even heard of it? Did you see any marketing? Because I didn't. I'm really curious to know about this one. Please do give this review a thumbs up, subscribe, and share with a friend who might be thinking of seeing this film as well. And hey, while you're here, why not check out one of these other reviews? And I will see you all again soon. In the meantime, happy viewing. Bye for now.